The values we defend must emanate from lived experiences. I would tell you why. My name is Maggie. I am a teacher. I have 4 children. Before continuing my story, I invite you to subscribe and above all, don't forget to activate the notification bell so as not to miss the next stories. I married Joseph several years ago. We were still young then. I met him while I was in my 2nd year of training as a teacher. Meanwhile, he was already working in a big office in town. He had a huge salary, and so he could afford all the luxury he needed. Joseph lived in a large villa in a chic area of the city. He had several cars. In short, he was financially stable. He gave me everything I needed and even took care of my family. He was really very generous. I remember that he even financed the university studies of my brothers and sisters until they obtained their degrees. When we finally got married, we moved into a much larger and more luxurious house. He even gave me a car. It was all about joy at home, but despite this, I felt an emptiness in me. I wanted to go back to school to finish my training and work too. I got trained as a teacher, and that was my passion. But Joseph never agreed with this idea. Why do you want to work, Maggie? Do you lack anything? You have everything you need. Please just take care of the children and me. You don't need to work. I'm already earning enough for all of us. Joseph, I don't just work to get money. Don't I also need to flourish? Besides, no one knows what life has in store for. Please, my dear, drop this work story. Time passed and I already had 4 children. Joseph wanted 6. He grew up in a small family as an only child. He often told me that he would have liked to have several brothers and sisters, and since he couldn't have that, he had to catch up by having many children. So for him, his intentions was to form a large family. That's why every time I gave birth, he'll be so overwhelmed with joy that he'd offer me a car. 2 years after the birth of my 4th child, Joseph lost his parents in a car accident. We mourned, but the pain was far too great. Joseph couldn't stand losing both his parents at the same time. And despite everything I did to cheer him up, nothing seemed to work. He was very attached to them because they were the only family he had growing up. He didn't even know that he still had uncles and aunts. It was during the mourning of his parents that he discovered all this. Unfortunately, the depression overcame him and Joseph left us. I still remember that painful day like it was yesterday. We had been in the hospital for several months already. Joseph suffered from chronic depression to the point where he already had the crisis of madness. The processing fees were increasingly expensive to the point where I had already emptied his entire account, but he still wasn't getting better. That Saturday morning, the doctor sent me to pick up an extremely rare medicine in the town, and when I came back, it was already too late. Joseph was already dead. He had left without saying goodbye, leaving me alone with 4 children. Pain invaded my entire being. I stood there in front of Joseph's body crying. Joseph, don't do this to me. Who are you leaving me with? What am I going to do with the children? Please, darling, get up. A nurse came to support me and help me fill out the forms to put Joseph's body in the mortuary. As soon as I got home, I saw 2 of his uncles in our bedroom looking some document. Surprised, I asked them if he had learned of Joseph's death. They replied that they had indeed learned of Joseph's death, which is why they were looking for the house's papers to keep them safe. They took away the papers from the house and refused to give them to me. They claimed like their intentions were to help me and protect me from Joseph's envious and hateful uncles. Yet they were the ones who destroyed the lives of my children. A few months passed after Joseph's funeral. The financial resources he had left were gradually running out, and we were starting to run out of money. I decided to sell the cars he had offered me, since his had already been sold to cover hospital expenses. What I did quickly, I reserved this money to pay the children's tuition fees. In order not to become bankrupt, I decided to open a small business. But one morning I saw a man who arrived, accompanied by Joseph's uncles. They presented him the house and gave him the house documents. It was already too late when I noticed that they had sold the house, leaving us homeless. I didn't believe it. Whom were these heartless people who, without remorse, put a widow and her children on the street? You can't do that. Where am I going now? How could you? You have a family. Go home to your parents. It's time for us to eat our son's money too, they replied. I didn't know what to do. I started shouting all over the house. "Help me! Help me!" They began to laugh. "You'd better leave. Joseph is no longer there." The new owner gave me 2 weeks to vacate his house. His house. I still couldn't believe it. That's all Joseph had left of his children. I began to cry, and my tears flowed endlessly. "Joseph, what did you do to me? If at least I had a job. See what your uncles have done to your children. They no longer have a home." The next day, I called my parents, and they offered me to come and live with them for a while. A week later, I just took what was strictly necessary and went with the children. Once at my parents' house, I found the strength to get up and fight to protect my children. My father offered me money to finish my training, despite my age, to be able to find a job. I was plunged back into difficult living conditions. In order not to depend entirely on them, during the day I went to the market to sell, and in the evening I went to class. I did it for a year and managed to finish my training. I was able to find a place in a large establishment as a teacher. It was the beginning of a new life. I wanted to give my children everything they needed, and the first thing that came to my mind was to build a house. But one day, as I told my story to one of my new colleagues, she promised to help me. Her husband was a lawyer, and he often defended this kind of case. I quickly accepted and explained everything that had happened to him. He agreed to take charge of the case, and the first step was to submit a letter of summons to initiate a trial. Initially, my late husband's uncles categorically refused to respond to the summons, but they were later seized by the police. At the moment, they understood that it was not a game. At the first hearing, they invented a lot of things, saying that the house had been bequeathed to them in the will. At this moment, I remembered that he had written his will and left it to his notary, who died a few days after him. The uncles of my late husband had written a false will. My lawyer and I went to this notary's office. The will was indeed hidden in his safe, waiting for me to come and claim it. Joseph's uncles had made an attempt to assassinate his notary so that he did not present the real will, but it failed so. At the next hearing, the evidence was elucidated and the truth was discovered. I finally recovered the house, and these uncles went to prison, since they were unable to repay the money from the house they had taken. Today, I live in my house with my children, and the salary I earn allows us to live easily.